All right, guys, so we are going to do the we're going to do the front of your brain. We're going to label all the different parts. Every year there's always an anatomy question where they point to something and ask you for more information. So we're going to start here. Now, the first thing we're going to label is your cerebrum, C-E-R-E-B-R-U-M. Now, cerebrum sounds a lot like cerebral and like cerebellum. You have to keep them separate. They all sound very similar. They're not. So your cerebrum is your outer layer of the brain. Parentheses, it's the surface. So when you look at a brain, it is the wrinkly part. It holds all of your corticalizations. Okay? It's your thinking cap. You know how when you're in elementary school and people would say, your teachers would say, put on your thinking caps. God, I hated that so much. It's your thinking cap or the wrinkles on your brain. So when you look at the brain, it has all of like these moldings and all that stuff. That's corticalization. Yes. Corticalization, C-O-R-T-I-C-A-L-I-Z. No second I here. A-T-I-O-N. Corticalization. So your cerebrum. So I'm taking out my colors. My cerebrum is going to be blue. So I'm going to color in my box blue. So when I see blue, I know what it is. Now, your cerebrum is the outer layer of your brain. This is where all of your neurons are firing at a crazy level. Okay, this is where the most dense inner neurons are located. So I'm just circling around my brain because your cerebrum is just around the outside of your brain. That's it. So your cerebrum holds your corticalization or the wrinkles of your brain. Now the next one we're going to do is your cerebral cortex. Now your cerebral cortex, it is underneath the cerebrum. It is made up of your two hemispheres. And all of your lobes. Okay? So, what are the names of your two hemispheres? You can raise your hand and tell me because you did this. Well, Aaron. Left and right. What is the left in control of, Aaron? Language, linear, logic, the 3 L's. Okay, right hemisphere is in control of what, Quentin?
Creativity, feeling, melody, and spatial awareness.
There you go. So when you think of a brain, you think of that whole like big flesh, like fleshy. You could stick your hands into it if you really wanted to. You could jam your fingers into it. Yeah. You know, it's like that meaty part. That is your cerebral cortex. Now, the cerebellum goes around the outside of your cerebral cortex. Your cerebral cortex is all the ushy-gushy stuff. It is where all of your lobes are. Now, what are the names of some of your lobes? Give me a lobe, Brooke. Temporal, and what is that in charge of? There you go. Hearing, absolutely. What is another lobe? What do you got? Lily?
Frontal lobe.
Frontal lobe, and what is that in charge of?
The frontal lobe is in charge of, it's the newest part of the brain. It's in charge of higher mental processes. So it's things that only humans can do.
There you go. And then you have your occipital lobe, which is in the back, which is dealing with all of your visual. So your next layer. So you have the cerebrum, which is the outer layer, which is your thinking cap, where it has the highest density of inner neurons. Then your cerebral cortex, which is all the ushy-gushy stuff. Anytime you really stick your hands into a brain, you're in the cerebral cortex. The next major piece is your corpus callosum. Now your corpus callosum is, it allows both hemispheres to communicate. With one another. Now I'm going to show you a video clip here, probably on Thursday, where you're going to meet a guy who got his corpus callosum cut, and he's awesome. The video is made in the 80s. He's got an awesome sweater on. It's a great one. It's one of my favorites. But the corpus callosum is right here in the center of your brain and allows your two hemispheres to talk. Now, I am definitely a more left brain person. I am not right brained at all. I have no musical talent. I cannot sing. I cannot dance. I can't keep beat to a tune. I am not creative at all. However, I can do some things on the right hemisphere because of my corpus callosum. Very few people are super, super dominated by the left or the right side. That's because your corpus callosum is in place, which allows your brain to communicate. When you see my man here on Thursday, you're going to see that he can't even make words of things he sees with the right side of his brain. It's pretty cool. All right. Your next one is going to be your thalamus. Now, your thalamus, okay, is located, you're going to have to kind of make it up. We're just going to draw a big circle. Mine's green. And we'll get to what your thalamus does on the other side. It's part of your limbic system. That's the focus of your limbic system. All right. Your next one is your hypothalamus.
It's just like a random circle.
Yeah. You don't really need to know too much about it. It's located in your limbic system. On the other side is where that has more detail for it. But I just want you to know where it is. I'm just putting a circle here for your hypothalamus. Your next one is your pituitary gland. Your pituitary gland is in charge of your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is in charge of all your hormones. So, if you're very short, it's because, and like you don't have like the dwarf gene, it is because your pituitary gland is under functioning.
Why we're short. That's
Yeah,
great.
it can, unless it's a genetic thing. But some people have disorders. So they have that. Brainstem is way down here. / spinal cord. The spinal cord turns into your brainstem, and your brainstem turns into your spinal cord. For me, it's going to be a lighter yellow. And that's all the way over here. Please watch where I'm drawing the line for my yellow. Okay, now here's one of the other ones that make it a little bit tricky. Your cerebellum, also known as your little brain. Make sure that you know there's a difference between cerebellum and cerebrum. Cerebrum's on the top of your brain. Your cerebellum is at the base of your brain. Now, for me, my cerebellum is going to be pink. And it is all of this. Now, your little brain is dealing with all your autonomic functionings. So what would be an example of an autonomic functioning that the cerebellum is dealing with? Digestion would be one. What's another one? It's one of the more important parts of it. Breathing. Absolutely. Breathing is a huge part. I'm a big fan of it. Okay? It deals with all that stuff. It's called the little brain because it controls all the stuff that if it's not functioning, you're dead. That's why it's called the little brain. It deals with all the stuff that the rest of our brain doesn't have to think about, which is why we call it the little brain. Without it, we're in big trouble. Which is why, you know how your mom always yells at you for pushing your little brother backwards or little sister backwards? Hello? Because if you injure the back of your cerebellum, stop for 2 seconds. Stop. Stop. Take your hand, lean your head forward, and if you go up your spine, you can feel your vertebrae, and then you can feel the skull, right? You see how it bulges out right by the back of your head? Right behind that, where it kind of like bridges out, like kind of jumps out a little bit, right behind that is your cerebellum. If you injure that, if you fall and you hit your head on that, you're immediately dead. There's no way you're coming back. There's not a shot in hell. No matter how fast the paramedics get to you, you're going to be dead because it severs all of your immediate functions. So when your parents like flip out when you push your big brother or sister down, okay, and they fall back, that's why it's so scary, because if you injure that, you're immediately dead. There's nothing anyone can do for you. Okay, so that's your cerebellum. Your medulla is just above it. That is what really deals with your digestive system and stuff like that. It's kind of making those types of modifications. And then, which is the purple. And then finally you have your pons. Now your pons is located on top of your medulla. And at this part, for me it's going to be blue. This is kind of regulating how much information is getting out, and it's communicating to the rest of the brain. Okay, now on this side there's one other thing that you need to know. I have plenty of room over here, so I'm going to do this. This is called the layers of the brain. Now, the layers of the brain is very important.
Where are the pons?
Pons are located right here. Okay, so your layers of your brain. The first layer is the bottom. Now, as evolution has worked for us, at the base of the brain is all the things you cannot live without. Okay? You cannot live without a cerebellum. It's at the base of your brain. It deals with all your breathing, your eating, and all that stuff. Your medulla modifies some of that behavior in your pons. Can you live without making plans? Can you live without texting? Yeah, you can. That's why it's at the top of the brain. The newest part of the brain is at the top. The oldest part of the brain is at the bottom. If an animal can do it, it's at the bottom of your brain. As your brain has evolved, it has then added in things that make us human. So at the base of your brain, at the bottom, you need to know it goes brainstem, medulla, pons, and cerebellum. You need to know the order, and that's the order. It goes brainstem, medulla, pons, and cerebellum. That is the bottom of your brain. The second layer is your midbrain. Your midbrain is your limbic system, which is what I'm going to go into more detail on the backside. Your limbic system. And it goes thalamus, hypothalamus, amygdala, hippocampus. And then you have your top, which is your cerebral cortex. Then cerebellum. Cerebrum, sorry. See? You got to make sure you're paying attention. Cerebral cortex and your cerebrum. Okay? So you have three major layers. The bottom of the brain is your most basic, animalistic, completely. Your second layer, your limbic system, is all of your emotions. So, I have animals, you've met animals, you know that animals have some emotions, correct? My puppy, when he gets happy, his little tail wags. Okay, his basic emotions. Does he feel guilt? Actually, he does feel. He peed on my carpet last night. I was a little pissed. He did feel a little guilt. He sat there with his head down and he was really sad. But does he have jealousy? Does he have some of these more sophisticated ones? No. Okay? And he definitely can't text. He definitely can't use the internet. He definitely has no written language. Okay? So as we go through the layers, from the bottom to the top is the most evolved. Okay? Questions, concerns, comments about everything on the front? We're okay? All right, flip it over. All right, this is where things get hard. All right. We're going to start right here. All right, so write small because we are putting a ton of stuff. I know. I'm so excited too. So the first one is your cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex. It's the upper part of the brain. Consisting of two hemispheres. I don't get to use markers often, and I need them because I can. Yes. Okay, so cerebral cortex. For me, it's going to be orange. Okay. And remember, it's the ushy-gushy stuff. It's the wrinkly stuff. What are the wrinkles called? Corticalization. The more surface area you have on your brain, the more it can process. So, the more wrinkles you have, the more neurons you have. So, that's why your brain's wrinkly. It's not because it's sitting in juice. Someone was like, it's because it's sitting in juice. No, it's not. All right, corpus callosum. Your corpus callosum is a thick band. A thick band of neurons. Miss Bennett. I don't have a TA loading in your mouth. No, this is Bennett. A thick band of neurons that connect left and right hemisphere. Okay, and for me, it's going to be purple. And it's this band right here. All right. Next is your thalamus. Now your thalamus relays sensory information from the lower part of your brain to the upper cortex and processes sensory information. What we have a nickname for it, we call it the call center. Okay, any information that's coming in to the brain has to go through the thalamus. It has to go through. Once it gets to the thalamus, then the thalamus sends it to where it needs to be. Remember, all the information is coming up your brainstem, all the way up, and then it goes straight to your thalamus. Now, your thalamus is located right here. For me, it's blue. I'm going to draw a little arrow to it as well. So your thalamus relays sensory information. So it takes all the information that is coming into your brain and it is making the connections and sending it to where it needs to be. So the thalamus is part of your limbic system as well as the hypothalamus, and that's next. So your thalamus is known as the call center and your hypothalamus is located below the thalamus. And above the pituitary gland. It is responsible for sleep, which I need, hunger, thirst, and sex. It's in parentheses, it's all of your animalistic motivations. Alright, so for me it's going to be yellow. So my hypothalamus is located right here. And that is all of your animalistic. The next one is your hippocampus. Now your hippocampus is responsible for long-term memory and the storage of memory. And how we remember this, if a hippo came to campus, you'd remember. So, just a way to remember it. That's how I always get it. Alright, so if a hippo came to campus, you'd remember. Your hippocampus is in charge of your memories. For me, it's going to be red, and it is located right here. So if a hippo came to campus, you'd remember. Alright, next is going to be your pituitary gland. Now your pituitary gland, it is in charge of your endocrine system. Parentheses, it releases hormones. Okay, and it looks like a little pea. In your brain, it's very, very small. And for me, it's green. Okay, so your pituitary gland is in charge of your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is in charge of all your hormones. So it is in charge of development, all that stuff. Alright, pons. It plays a role in sleep. Dreaming. Left and right body control. And arousal. So, do animals have this? Is it going to be on the top part of the brain or on the bottom of the brain? Bottom. Alright, for me it's going to be orange, and it is right here. Sorry. Alright, my next is my medulla. My medulla is life-sustaining functions. Like breathing. How much time do I have? Perfect. Swallowing and a heart attack. And heartbeat, not a heart attack. That would be weird. And heartbeat. Okay, for me, it's going to be... I'm running out of colors. That's fine. Medulla is going to be black. And it is located right here. Alright, then you have your spinal cord. brainstem. And this brings information from the PNS to the CNS, then to the brain. And for me, it's going to be yellow. All right, and then over here, I have a cerebellum. Cerebellum is part of the lower. Part of the lower brain. Behind the pons. It controls voluntary movements, rapid movements, and fine motor skills. It's known as the little brain. And for me, it's going to be pink. Abigail, I can give you a new. Why? It's your name. You could have. I have extra sheets.
No, I have one at home.
No, I know, but I have extra sheets. You could have just done it with us. Okay. All right. So what I would like you to go ahead and do is take whatever color. I don't care. For me, it's going to be red. You are going to put a star next to Hippocampus. You're going to put a star next to Hypothalamus. You're going to put a star next to Thalamus. You're going to put a star next to Corpus Callosum. All of these put together equals limbic system. Now your limbic system is what your emotions. They're dealing with all of your emotions. So you need to have a star. You need to know that the corpus callosum, the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and the hippocampus all fall under the limbic system. The limbic system is what I personally think is the hardest part of the brain. I personally believe they are the hardest. All right? So everyone should have the front of your brain done. Yes? Everyone should have the back of their brain done. Any questions about that? Yes. Of course. Okay, so I'm going to transition here very quickly into your focus and your study guide. So I'd put all your markers, your color pencils, your crayons away on your desk. Do not put them up front. We don't have that much time. I am transitioning, so join me. This week is tough. In case you didn't know already, it is really hard. You are accountable for everything I put on this sheet here, people. That's what makes this week hard. Yes. Corpus callosum, thalamus, hypothalamus, hippocampus. Just 4. All right, I'm transitioning. Join me. Take out your focus and your study guide. We're going. It's a big week, and we're testing on Friday. In case you didn't notice, we are testing on Friday because I got to get us back on schedule here. And sensation and perception next week is also anatomy, by the way. So
Are we done with the brain diagram for now?
for now, yeah. All right, so everyone should be transitioning to your focus and your study guide. I am going to pick it up here. Let's go. All right, so the brainstem. So as you know from your map, I would have it out because I'm going to be referencing it. And I'm not a big anatomy person, so I always like having it out. So your medulla is the first large swelling at the top of the spinal cord, forming the lowest part of the brain. The lower it is on your spinal cord, the more important it is. So the medulla is responsible for all of your life-sustaining functions, like breathing, swallowing, and heart rate. If you can't do those three things, you're going to die. That is what the medulla is all about. It is the lowest. It is also the most important. Okay, so the lower it is in the brain, the more important it is. Now your pons are the large swelling above the medulla that connects the top of the brain to the bottom, and it plays a part in sleep, dreaming, left-right body coordination, and arousal. What the pons does, I think of it as the elevator of the brain. It gets information to where it needs to go in large capacities. While your thalamus is the call center, your pons is your little elevator. It gets information to where it needs to be in order for you to be able to function. Because remember, humans have evolved, so we're more than just food, sex, water. Okay, we have complicated emotions. Like for instance, I don't really want to be awake right now, but here I am, and I'm trying to teach as best I can, even though my head is a giant fog cloud. Okay, so pons is where that information leaves our life-sustaining stuff at the bottom of the brain and puts it to where it needs to be. So it's like the escalator of information or the elevator of information, whatever makes you remember it better. Now, if you look at your multiple sheet, it says parts of the brain study guide. It looks like this. Okay. Mnemonic device is how you're going to remember it. So if I was doing your pons right now, I would do elevator. The elevator of the brain. Mnemonic device is just how to remember it. Like hippocampus is if you saw a hippo on campus, you'd remember. Those are. That would be an example of mnemonic device. The medulla is just, I don't have an original one for that. All right, guys, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.